Two, one. Good morning, good afternoon, or good night, depending on where you are in the world today. And thank you for bearing with us, Rain and myself here on Unprecedented. I had a bit of a family emergency last week, which is why we did not do our podcast. So thank you everybody for your patience and bearing with us. We really do appreciate it. And yeah, how have you been doing, Rain?
Well, it's like you say, there have been challenges, right, in our personal lives as well as well. I hope you can't hear that dog barking, but if you do, she'll settle down eventually, hopefully.
No problem.
Um, and also in our communities and globally, and quite honestly, we can't function without it affecting us for sure, right? I
Oh,
mean,
for sure. Yeah,
so we go through our own. That's
we
enough.
do indeed.
That's enough.
Oh. See something that we can't hear, I suppose. We'll hear something that we
Yes.
can't see.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So what's our
Yeah.
topic for today, Stefan?
Our topic for today is Unlost in a Raging World, which I feel like goes on so beautifully from our last two topics as well. Just in terms of really being able to stay centered no matter what's going on around us.
I'm
And
experiencing that right now with this dog barking. One moment, I'm going to put her in the bathroom. Hang on.
no problem, no problem. Whilst we are waiting for Rain to come back to the podcast, just to share a bit more about the topic today and what it means, I suppose, for me, is that the last couple of weeks and months for so many people have been so tough. I just was saying whilst we're waiting for you, I was just going to give a bit of insight as to my take on our topic today because we really have been going through it, and I think a lot of people, myself included, thought that 20 or hoped that 2021 would be a better year. And even though I knew consciously that, yes, 2020 was a lot of positive destruction in terms of getting rid of a lot of old modalities and ways of doing things. And sure, 2021 has been about rebuilding, but rebuilding is not always easy.
No.
And especially when society at large or the powers that be want to build something that is just more of the same. And as a society, we're going, no, we want something better. We want something a lot better because
Mm-hmm.
it's time now. And
Yeah.
that
If
to me is
if
what we're
if
seeing.
it's not building better, if there's oppression and control and loss of our liberties, then obviously it's not a good thing. So this is why
Exactly.
there's been such a pushback because people are literally fighting for their lives, right?
Mm,
So, I mean, in my own experience, there have been days where I've handled it like okay or well, and other days where I haven't, you know. And people that have their families with them or a really good support system around them, like within their close proximity, um, sometimes that doesn't always work either because not everyone is going to agree on everything, right? We're all so unique that we all have our perspectives, right, on our
right.
beliefs and that sort of thing. So I think what you're saying is a lot of this in the last year has really stretched us, and it stretched
Mm,
us in some good ways and in some not so good ways, right? And so it's challenged us to really, I think we've had to do a lot more homework. Wouldn't you agree? On ourselves and on information, on facts,
oh,
understanding, all of
absolutely.
that.
Absolutely. Because there's so much disinformation out there, and a lot of it's from very well meaning sources. And that I think can also sometimes lead us astray so quickly and so easily. Because
Hmm.
you'll see something on mainstream media and your soul will go, hang on, there's something going on here that they're not telling us, or this is a distraction from something else. And then you'll maybe see a post from a source that you believed has been reliable in the past and has been reliable in the past, but they maybe are just having a lazy day and they're reporting something that is not true and not factual.
Or they may
And
not be fully aligned with their soul, and open up to that pineal gland piece, right?
Mm.
Because we're not all, we're not perfect. Again, we're in the human condition. So sometimes, like you say, we could be not having like an aligned day, not a good day. And so we may not be fully open, with
Yeah.
our intuition. And so that can cause us to fall off. And I had an experience on the weekend where I realized that I was very open and with my perspective, and some people didn't like that. And on the other hand, I was perhaps too open and putting it out there, like, everybody has an opinion. And so sometimes when we express our opinion, it may seem offensive to someone else, or it may not sit right with them because they're not there yet. They're not where we are. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
so if we've evolved to a certain level and we're here, but they're still sort of here trying to catch up, then we're not going to be in sync. So then there's this dance that has to happen where, we share information, they share information, and then we come to the realization we're both doing what we're supposed to be doing. We're just not fully aligned at this time. And that's okay. Instead of us
Yes.
beating ourselves up, right? Instead of us, which is what we all do to ourselves and to others, we become critical. We fall into that critical,
Mm-hmm.
judgmental nature. So we really have to check ourselves. And this is why, I think what we've learned to do even more so in this last almost 2 years now is it's important to check ourselves daily and even sometimes moment to moment. It's
Yeah.
really important.
I love how the universe will repeat stuff to me constantly over and over and over again. Because I literally just did a podcast on a book that we're dissecting week by week with the author. And the first part of it is all about constant self-examination to see where you're at from a very present, um, a very real perspective, as in, not without judgment and without trying to make something more than it is, just
Mhm.
accepting what you are actually,
Right.
where you are actually at that
In
point in
in the
time.
rawness of it, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
In the rawness, and just accepting it and going, okay, this is where I'm at. This is who I am right
Hmm.
now.
Hmm.
Accept it, and then move on and move forward. And that is so deeply important because, as we were saying, we are in a raging world. It's when I heard the title, I had this vision of trying to make headway in a sandstorm. And you can just imagine, you've got your goggles on, you've got your wrappings on, and all the rest of it. And the
Hmm.
sandstorm is just swirling all around you. You've got zero visibility as to
Yes.
where you're going. You know that this is the right direction and you head off in it, but everything is conspiring to push you off your path. And
Hmm.
every so now and then, you'd have to take out your GPS or take out your compass and go, okay, am I actually still headed in the right direction,
Hmm.
or have I been pushed off course? And that's exactly what's happening in our day-to-day society today. Is there's this constant maelstrom around us that is purposefully pushing us off our course, because of course
Hmm.
that leads to a disempowered state, right? So it
That's
makes
right.
sense. That's why the world is geared to that. But so important to kind of stick to our guns and go, okay, well, I'm going to push forward irrespective.
That's right. And I like what you said, Stefan, that we become disempowered because that's
Mm,
exactly what happens to us in any situation, whether it's a marriage relationship or a partnership, friendships, relationships with our children or siblings. So, co-worker situations, any situation that you can think of, often that is what happens. It's like the tearing down. So all of the affronts come towards us, like you say, the wind and the sand blowing, and you can't see 2 feet ahead of you, but you still prod forward, you still continue because that you're going to where you need to go, right? And when I had that topic come to me, I just felt this energy of fire all across the earth, and people fighting, and
Mm.
this just war torn state that we are in the world right now, and affecting our economy, and and I just feel so passionate about it, because what is that doing to not only us as individuals but our families, right? Everything that's
Right.
happening, the tearing down of businesses and productivity, and even children going away to university, the disruption that's happened in the school systems. So,
Hmm.
but you did make a good point, is that we are getting somewhere. We are moving forward. Our times are changing. And Sylvia Brown, it was interesting. Someone sent me a clip of her, like a snapshot of something that she had. She's been passed away now for 3 or 4 years. And in her book, The End Times, she states that there was going to be this thing happen in 2020. And here we are, right? But she also says it comes to an end. So we know that. We know that it's coming to an end. We're all fighting hard. We're these warriors fighting with our swords and our torches, plowing through and helping each other, right? And so wouldn't you agree that this rage that's happening is somehow bringing us to something better?
Absolutely. And I was about to say maybe not better, maybe just different. But no, I actually do deeply believe that it's moving us towards something better. And I'd like to touch on something since we're on the topic of forecasts and predictions and whatnot. There's been a lot of talk over the last couple of years, and I've even been saying it for the past decade or so, but now it's really coming to a head, that the decline of Western civilization has been going on, and the fall of Western civilization is imminent. And a lot of people are going, oh, that's going to be so awful and so terrible, and our way of life is going to come to an end. And I'm going, don't forget that in order for something new and better to arise, the old first has to burn. It just has to. It's just
Mhm.
the nature of the universe, right? That
Right.
rebirth has to come after death. It cannot precede it. So, to people who are maybe a little bit concerned about where the world is going, because I think it's the United States is having their Saturn return very, very shortly. And that is supposed to indicate that, okay, that's the dusk of this grand empire, which, funny enough, is usual for most empires only last around 200 years. And that's essentially where we're at now in the development of the United States as a whole. That doesn't mean that our way of life is going to disappear. It doesn't mean that the way that we have been living is going to overnight suddenly change and morph into
Mhm.
something that we
Mhm.
hate and despise. Quite the contrary. It gives us an amazing opportunity because we can see what's going on in the world, because we can see how those archaic forms of manipulation and control are being dismantled in
That's
real
right.
time, right?
Right. Yeah.
We're actually getting to witness it. And I know a lot of people saying, like, gosh, I'm so tired of living in unprecedented times. I could do without this now. And I get that. I do. But all of this is all about moving forward and having that foresight to go, okay, when all of this collapses, what am I going to put back in its place?
Hmm.
Because we're only masters of our own world, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So what are we going to put back in its place? And for me, I'm like, well, I know I want to put back in its place in my old life and old way of doing things. It's something that's been on my mind over the last 2 weeks as I've been dealing with, as I mentioned, doubts of the family emergency. The idea of my own mortality and the mortality of the people and friends around me really came to the fore.
Hmm.
And I went, okay, so let's assume that I'm able to study alchemy, for instance, and extend my life span exponentially on this plane of existence. Let's assume I can do that. Great. Do I just want more of the same?
Of
Or
course not.
would I want to make it better? you know?
Right.
So whether you have 800 years on this planet or 80 years on this planet, why are we not all standing up and going, today's the day I make my life better? And
That's
every
right.
single day choosing that I'm going to make today better.
You've said so much there because one, for sure, technology is a huge piece of it. And as soon as I think of technology and what's going on in the world right now, I think of the city of Atlantis, how they progressed so much. They progressed exponentially, and they were, a very wise, in a very wise position with the
Hmm.
technology that they had developed spiritually and how they could invoke something and whatnot. But what happened there? What happened was the dark side came in and tried to take over with the
Yep.
control, yada, 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 right? This is exactly where we've been and where we're at right now. And so what we're doing as individuals, like you say, recognizing what we've been doing isn't necessarily what we want to be doing. Let's say one of my points today is about being resourceful. So let's say we have to take a job that we don't necessarily want to be at. And I've been there quite a few times in my life. Um, but we're doing what we need to do for the time being,
Yes.
because that's what we need to do. But things start to happen while you're working that job that are pointing you towards, like, what am I doing here? I need to leave this position. I need to do something different. And this little light just stirs inside of you in your spirit. And you go, well, I always wanted to go to school to be a technician or to be an electrician or whatever, a chef or whatever it is that your dream is. So what's happening is those little whispers are urging you to create the change in your own life that you need to make,
Mm,
as in what you're speaking about, your
yes.
your progress, your individuality, and who you are, right?
Yep.
These things are going to happen. The other piece of it is, you're right, we're all fighting for our world to be better. And so that does require that when laws or rules or changes are trying to be forced upon us to put us in a deficit, to put us in a bad place, we have to step up. We have to walk forward and fight for our rights, our freedoms, what we believe in, right? And
Absolutely.
this is, like you say, what is creating a better world for ourselves. We are heading into the golden age. I've done several readings in the last couple of weeks, and I've seen that it's coming. So we are heading towards that golden age where we are going to have peace. We've learned, I think, enough in this last 2 years to understand that unity is important. Although we maintain our individuality, unity with one another and working together, even when we don't agree, we can agree to disagree and still walk together. And I think
Absolutely.
that's pertinent to what's been going on for sure.
Definitely, because 90% of what has happened over the last 2 years and what is happening right now as well is the exact opposite of learning to work together with people who have differing views. Everything that has been going on has been very much about polarity. It's been about trying to pit one person against another, one race, one religion, one creed against somebody else.
Yeah.
Um, and you see it right now, in Canada, in the States, and in parts of Europe, where
Australia is really bad.
Australia is really bad, where if you
Yeah.
are unvaccinated, you are treated almost like a leper. You can't go into certain
Mm-hmm.
places or
Mm-hmm.
stores. And you just and then automatically what happens is on a societal level, people then look at the opposing view as very other, very alien, and equally antagonistic. And yet these are people that we work with, that are our family members, that
Mm-hmm.
we actually like and love,
Mm-hmm.
and we have a lot in common with them. And then there's just this one thing that the world tells us, oh, just because they're doing this one thing, you should not be associating with that person at all. And I just look at it and I go, gosh, isn't that interesting? It went from race issues. Well, actually, it started off with religious issues, right, back in however many hundreds of years ago, moved into race issues now more recently. Sexuality is a big one at the moment as well. And now,
Yes.
of course, we've got the vaccine. It's these issues around creating divisions amongst people that don't have to be there. We don't
No.
have to have these divisions.
Division
Everybody,
is the biggest agenda, I believe.
absolutely. It
Right?
keeps it keeps the collective fragmented, and the more fragmented the collective is, the less able it is to stand up and collectively, with one voice,
Mm-hmm.
go, "This is what we want," because
Mm-hmm.
that would be undeniable, right? If all of humanity stood up and said, "This is what we want, and we're in alignment, and this is how we're going to proceed," nobody could stop us, not one person.
That's right.
But that fragmentation is so powerful. And I mean, the elite learned this, I think, from, well, actually from God, funny enough, because you think about the Tower of Babel, right? Mankind came together to create something phenomenal. Sure, its intention was not great. And as a result, God said, no, we're going to confuse the languages of the people so that they are unable to communicate effectively with each other,
Mm-hmm.
and scatter them to the four corners of the earth. And that's exactly what happened. Humanity fragmented, its power was lost. In that case, I believe it was a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But since then, the controlling forces of the world have just used that same technique over and over again throughout history to
That's right.
continually make the world into a place of rage, war, and
Mm-hmm.
confusion.
Yeah, like the very thing that we do in benevolence, the connecting that we do with, the divine, the universe, the other side, whatever you want to label it, tapping in through our inner source, our intuition, our third eye, the whole bit. They've taken that same technique and they've used it for evil, for dark,
Yes.
for not good. And so, yeah, of course. And so then you've got, like you talk about the polarity to, like, good and evil, right? Or good and bad, however you want to coin it. So really our job, as divinely inspired people, is to launch into that possibility, to keep that light, that spark within us, allowing that spark within us to light our way. And that's what
Mm,
helps to guide us, right? Is again that checking point, staying
yep.
tapped in, and then we've got, you talked about, being aligned. So those, when things are happening that we feel like are not aligned, those are indicators. Those are indicators for us to go, wait a minute, something doesn't feel like it's sitting right here. And really tap into, why are we feeling that way? What are the indicators that are causing us to feel that way? And then we can turn onto a different path, right?
Mm,
We can now redirect our path and bring with us the information we've gained, but also we're paving the way, right? It's like we're in a forest and we've got a sickle in our hand and we're, you know, creating a pathway through the forest to get to our destination, right?
yeah. And then if we do, more people are able to follow that path as well,
That's right.
which I think is just it's so incredible. And I couldn't agree with you more about your earlier statement about us really heading into this golden age. This old saying of "it's always darkest before the dawn,"
Mm-hmm.
and that's exactly how I've been feeling. I've been sensing that the next couple of months are going to be really rough and tough for most of the planet. It's not going to be fun and games by
Mm-hmm.
any stretch of the imagination. But it really does feel as though as we turn that corner, there's going to be, and I'm not saying that's going to be January 1st or anything like that. I
No.
don't think that that's quite how it works. But definitely in the new year, I
Yeah.
sense that things are going to be a lot better
Well, I'm glad
for,
that you feel that, because I've been getting that as well about
yeah.
mid-January. But
Yes.
I also, like, we have to remember too that it's not all doom and gloom. Yes, we are walking through the doom and gloom, but there are also wins and
Mm.
abundance throughout that journey as well. So we need to celebrate those wins and share them and raise our vibration, bring in that hope. Like right now, I'm working on a project called the Angel Project, and it's a collaborative where people can, be a part of this book of miracles and healing and all that kind of stuff, right? And why am I doing this is I'm just so passionate about helping people to see the hope in things, because there is hope. There is hope there, and we have to keep that torch lit, that torch of hope, because we all need to be reminded.
Yep.
Stefan, we're very fortunate that we, and anyone who has walked into, becoming awakened, we've been very fortunate, because we could have just as easily been on the other side of it. I was thinking that yesterday. We could have easily been on the other side of it, which would not have been a very happy place to be, kind of shrouded in this darkness and not being in the know and not being aware of the awakening. So this is why it is so important for all of us to love one another and to collaborate together and to share and to grow together, because we're all in this together.
Absolutely. That is actually a beautiful place for us to start wrapping up, I think, that we are all in this together. And we don't have to go it alone. One of the most beautiful things that's come out of the advent of the internet is that I could meet you sitting all the
That's
way
right.
over in Canada. We've never met in person,
Yeah.
but we have beautiful shared outlooks on life. And as a result, I feel slightly less alone because,
Mm-hmm.
there's someone sitting on literally the opposite end
Other
of the
side of the
planet
world. Yeah.
who I get to have wonderful chats with about things that are near and dear to my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And that is so beautiful. And I want people, whoever's listening or seeing the replay on this, really think about that at no point in history, no, let me rephrase that. At no point in recorded history has there been a time where we've had this level of interconnectivity.
Yeah.
And yes, sure, we can use it to watch silly cat videos, which are really funny,
Mm-hmm.
but we can equally use it to connect with like-minded souls and individuals so that we can remind ourselves that we are not alone.
That's
There are
right.
so many pinpricks of light all over this planet of people waking up. I mean, I met someone yesterday, incredible woman who goes, "Oh, I just started my journey 3 weeks ago to the day." And I'm like, "Oh,
Wow.
well," I went, "Well, what do you mean?" And she goes, "No, I woke up and I just decided I had to do something, and I started exploring breath work and meditation, and I'm researching
Wow.
things, and I'm sat there going, good heavens, look at this."
Yeah.
And she keeps going, she's like, "I'm very new to this," but you can see the fervor in her eyes,
Mm-hmm.
and she's going, "How did I even meet you?" And I said, "Well, you met me through so and so, but bear in mind that you could meet any number of people. You
That's
can go
right.
into Instagram and just follow a
Yeah.
hashtag consciousness, and see what content
That's
comes up.
right.
You can
And
go, yeah,
well, on the same note, that when this happens with people, I've had a thought. Let's say it could be, I don't know, anything. It's just a simple thought. And I've got my TV on and I'm watching a movie, and all of a sudden, the same exact thought that I was just thinking pops up on through their conversation.
right,
I don't know how many times that's happened to me, and I just go, wow, what just happened? Right? So, this is showing us in real time that thought is alive. The things that we think are real, and they
yep,
go out into the ethers, and that energy picks up on our thought and it brings it back to us. That's why we don't want to spend too much time in that doom and gloom stuff. We want to hear what's going on in the world so that we're we're privy to the knowledge and we have some facts to go on and we're kind of aware what's going on, but then we want to redirect our thoughts and our energy to a higher source of vibration in positivity.
Absolutely.
Like you were with her, right? All of
Yep,
a sudden then your conversation just took on a life of its own,
for
right?
sure. And just that to me is just so beautiful. So what I would then wrap up by saying is, when I'm going through something really tough, when the world just feels like it's against me, even if I don't feel like it, I will stand up and I will say out loud, I am healthy, wealthy, and wise. And thank
Exactly.
you, universe, for that.
Yeah.
And that just, brings it back home that we're not alone. We
Hmm.
have our health. We
That's
are
right.
wealthy in our own ways. We're wealthy in the knowledge we have. We're wealthy in the relationships we have and the connections that we have.
Hmm.
And we are wise, maybe not in comparison to someone like King Solomon, for instance, but we are wise in our own little space. And that wisdom,
Right.
if we allow it to, can grow exponentially.
Yeah, and I would add to that is the gratitude piece. So when we
Mm,
sit down and we have a meal in front of us and we're just grateful, we're thankful that we're able to have a meal, right? Because there's a lot of people that are going hungry.
yeah,
They're going to
yeah.
bed hungry that night. Just something so simple as that. When I go out with my pups and I go outside and we're running around and we're playing and I'm just petting them and hugging them and kissing them and telling them I love them. These things that are so simple in life bring our soul life,
Yeah,
right?
for
It
sure.
nourishes it. It nourishes us. And so we have the spiritual aspect, like what you're talking about, and the
Hmm.
connection, but we also have our daily living stuff that we can be grateful for.
For sure. Couldn't agree with you more. Well, on that note, Rain, and sorry, ladies and gentlemen, that our podcast is a little bit shorter than usual today, but we both have other pressing commitments that we need to attend to. I think we're going to wrap it up there. I will say to our listeners, wherever you are watching this, whether it's on Rain's channel or on the Wellness Lifestyle Conference, please be sure to like and subscribe. That's the button below it'll be your right of the screen. Um, so that you're able to also stay up to date on new content that we share weekly. Rain and myself will be back next week, same time, same place, and we look forward to it. Can't wait.
Have a great week.
Thank you so much, and same to you.